Hey, Rent to Retires, it's Adam Schroeder here with another episode, joined as usual by Zach Lemaster, the founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement. And we are pleased today to be joined by one of our investors, James. He is here to talk to us about his journey. So, James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Hi, Zach, Adam. Thanks for having me. I am excited to get started.
All right. Well, let's start from the beginning. I know we were talking beforehand, and you've talked with some of our reps. Tell us a little bit about kind of how you found us and, why you were thinking about real estate in the first place.
So, how I got started was it was through the Bigger Pockets website and through the forums. I was looking for ways of like passively investing because I wanted to diversify my investments past 401k and Roth IRA, and I thought real estate would be a great way to get into it. And so I found Zach posting on one of the forums, and I looked into his profile, and I also like Googled like what Turnkey was, and I found that really intriguing and how it fit into my busy lifestyle as a traveling nurse. And so I went into his website and I saw all the good things about it. There was a website on, or not a website, a podcast, and I was able to listen more details and through the experiences of the past investors that have invested in your company. One specifically, a name popped up that I listened to was her name was like Kim Bosler, and that she actually was inspirational and how she was able to dive in and how she started, and that kind of resonated within me to start that first step too. Um, but yeah, that's
That's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, Kim was a great interview that we had. You can go back in our archives and find her episode. So tell us a little bit about kind of the initial process, because obviously you found us on Bigger Pockets. You came, you saw, you thought, hey, this could be reputable. Tell people a little bit about kind of your journey with Rent to Retirement, not just kind of the finding us and then buying, but a little bit about that journey leading up to the purchase process. Like, what made you feel comfortable enough that you trusted tens of thousands of dollars into a property and all of that? Tell us about like your first interactions.
Yeah, just walk us through your experience.
uh so so I got on the phone with Lars, and well, I guess I messaged Zach first, and that's how it started, and more details about what Turnkey was and what I needed, my steps were to engage into real estate. And so I knew that I didn't have the capital I needed to invest in my first down payment. So I needed to work on that first. So when I did, I also contacted one of your real estate strategists, Lars Kapler, and he was very helpful in getting me started and told me like giving me advice of what I should do as well. So that helped fortify what I needed to do to start investing, and backtracking again to saving enough for a down payment. When it came to the time for my first rental, that's when I contacted Lars again and said, "Hey, I think I'm ready." And I know that I had to get financing through a lender, which I needed to get my first deal. And so um, I was able to go on your inventory, started shopping for things that have that I feel like I have was profitable. So I made sure I did my numbers correctly. That way penciled out, and that it was a great investment to tap into. One of the benefits was on your website was the wealth calculator. I used it a couple times, and that was very efficient to even use. But I also did read up on the book through Brandon Turner's uh, book on property real estate investing, and it went also through some steps as well that I used to also help me pencil out um, the or analyze the property better as well. So those were some sources that I also used to help me get into the first deal, to feel more comfortable um, eh, with the property that I thought was the right move. Um,
That's great, James. I mean, a lot to unpack there. I want to just dive into some of this
yeah.
stuff. We'll hear more as your journey progressed. And Adam, let's put in the link in the show notes to the interview with Kim that we did. I think that was a couple of years ago, and yeah, she's fantastic. I mean, she's just an inspiration. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I find it interesting, James, that you listened to her podcast whenever you did, and you found that inspirational on our podcast, and then here you are now, right, sharing your story. So you're paying it forward, and I find that very valuable. I think that's important to talk about your experience of things you're accomplishing. I think that really makes it real, and without knowing it, I think that you'll have a lot of impact on people that may be listening to your story, right? So we certainly appreciate you coming on.
90% of real estate investors miss key tax savings by overlooking deductions. Flipping houses, managing rentals, or growing your real estate empire? Make sure you've got experts in your corner, especially when it comes to taxes. That's why we turned to Nevada Corporate Headquarters, the experts who help us reduce taxes and set up our real estate LLCs. With 35 plus years of experience and 17,000 five-star reviews, Nevada Corporate Headquarters helps you manage properties across states, navigate tax laws, and protect your assets, all with a real estate LLC. Visit nchinc.com/RTR to schedule a free real estate LLC formation and tax consultation. Plus, receive a free guide to safeguarding your assets.
So let me just understand a few things. You invested in an out-of-state property a while ago, and from what I understand, you bought your second property recently as well, or fairly recently. Was that your first rental, the first one you bought through our platform?
Yeah, it was my first. It is my first rental with you, rent retirement. And I bought that last year in June. And now recently, in the past couple months, back in January, I was able to close a second property with you, with Steve Yoke. I do have a lot of praise for his property management company. They've been great. They walked me all through from the day of closing. I was able to get things started with the city of Canton, where I'm investing. Um, I don't know. They walked me through all the steps that I needed to make sure that the place was rent ready, with the compliances, like the codes, and that it was safe, obviously.
That's awesome. So you were someone that, and I love this story, because what I heard from you initially is that you read some books, you listened to some podcasts, you did some research, which everyone listening to this is in that same boat. Many people do that for years and never take action, but you were someone who actually put your education into action and acquired your first asset, and now, within less than a year, you acquired your second one, which is fantastic. You're making great progress. And you also said that you did not have initial capital. I mean, that's a limiting factor for everyone, right? You didn't have enough money to put as a down payment. So I want to unpack like how you got there. Was it just simply saving up money? Was it something else that you did creatively to get into that first deal? I also want to unpack the fact that you're Canadian, you're investing in the US, you're a traveling nurse, you're moving around, you don't have a dedicated location that like you could invest in and oversee your properties. So I want to understand like why real estate and turnkey, but I have a tendency to string questions along. So let me break those down. Adam's giving me the eye here. So let's first start with the capital component of it. So you mentioned you didn't have enough capital. How did you save up enough capital? Do you adjust anything in your savings? Did you do anything else to earn an additional capital? Let's talk about that.
I did forget to mention that I was a staff nurse before getting to travel nursing, and I saw a difference, especially after COVID, that there was still some demand in that area in travel nursing, even though it was still dying. It was going to be it had it dying down in the wages that they make. But I still felt like it was still a good jump to dive into, and I was able to build up more capital when I took that leap from staff nurse to travel nursing, as I was able to find good paying contracts out and across U.S. So that helped me catapult into real estate sooner. So that was a way for me to gain more capital in that
Okay.
sense.
So you took a promotion. You took a, I mean, you
In that regard, yeah.
Like a leap.
Yeah.
Because that's a big leap. You're going from W-2 to, 1099 and trusting yourself to find those contracts. I know that can be a terrifying thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did find an agency, so it's still considered a W-2 when you're,
Well, it's still a different, in the same industry, whole different beast.
but more competitive. That's why it was able to me to build that capital sooner.
But you took the initiative to do that, to
Yes.
earn additional income, and basically find a way to earn capital quicker to be able to invest sooner. So that's awesome. Let's back up just a little bit, because I don't think that we covered this, and I always like to just ask people getting into it. Like, it sounds like you're invested in other assets. You said that you were interested in getting into real estate and diversifying, but like, what specifically about real estate was interesting to you? There's a lot of things you can invest in. So why did you decide real estate?
I felt like it was a easy way of, I don't know. I felt that it was a different environment than it is from nursing, and it falls back to my lifestyle. Like, I thought about when I become older, will I have the capacity to keep up with the physical demands of nursing? I wanted to have that other leverage of having another job like real estate to support that, where I'm not to be, I guess, more versatile in having another job to support my income.
It sounds like this was a level of, because you mentioned a couple of times now, passive income, additional income. It sounds like maybe real estate was attractive. And I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but just reading kind of, or paraphrasing what you're saying is, it sounds like maybe you like the idea of additional income. You obviously were researching the asset, and you kind of understood how the math works, and you believe in that. Just real estate, all the different ways it compounds over time. But it does sound like it was some level of like supplementary income and like retirement planning. Would that be kind of an accurate way to look at it?
In hindsight, yes, because I thought about retirement and how I can get there sooner in terms of like financial independence. And I just hear a lot about real estate, and through the news how it's and the podcast that I've also listened to was that real estate is one of the major vehicles for, or like the hotter markets in US to getting you there and for financial independence.
Yeah. I want to jump in the middle of Zach's 18,000 questions he was asking there at the beginning. You mentioned kind of reading the book and doing your due diligence and making sure it penciled out. If you were to go back to, whenever you bought your first property and thinking about that and talking with a newbie investor, what were some of the due diligence things that you found were, really important for you and made you more comfortable to invest? Was there something like one or two tips you can give people about doing their due diligence for their first property?
I would say build up your knowledge base in real estate, and I think that gives you that confidence in really getting into investing in real estate. Because I know that I was timid, and the risks there are there. Even though the Turnkey is in that path of passive, but it's not in all, because you're managing your property managers that are with you. They're there to support you, but in all honesty, it's you that's driving these investments. So you have to be diligent in what you're investing, or what market you're wanting to put your money into, in terms of job growth and um, like the what neighborhoods you're investing into, the amenities uh, that you think that may attract tenants to come and um, live in your home. Not only that, you got to be careful of how you're vetting your tenants. Though I rely on my property management because I am still quite new to real estate investing, and they're my support because they know more than I do. And but mind you, you have to also be mindful of how you're hiring these property managers because you never know if you're what type of work that they've done if they're a new company, and you just can't really tell how great they are. And but with Steve Yoke and with his team, they've been great. They've been knowledgeable and they have the experience because I know because I've asked them questions how what their experience were in terms of real estate, and most of them said that they have real estate and that they manage their own properties too, so they have that knowledge that they can apply in the work they do in property management.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We've been working with their team and many of the local teams, for many, many years. And that's important to have your established boots on the ground, right? I think that comes up. This is a big question too. Like, how did you get comfortable around investing out of state, and why choosing Turnkey? But like the important aspect is having local boots on the ground team. And I would argue even in your local market, right? If you're not self-managing, which I don't think is the best utilization of anyone's time, but if you're investing in real estate, it's all about the teams you build, right? The local property management team is a very important aspect, but they're just one of many pieces in this cog of your business wheel, right? That you want to make sure is important, along with having the right lenders and advisors and contractors, brokers, insurance agents, CPAs. All these things are important. We try to be a one-stop shop for everyone where we have all those resources should you need them. From our own experiences. But I think that's a big piece that will help to expedite your success. So hopefully that's, would you say that's been the case for you as well, or?
I and wholeheartedly that it is. I I feel like it's an important aspect of my journey, and with everyone too. It's that education that you need to continue, but you can't just continue like for the newer vet or the ones that are wanting to get into real estate. Not only that you're reading and listening to these podcasts like I did before I delve into it, you need to be applying these in actually running or managing these properties, because with all the reading and the listening to the podcast, you're just wasting your time. I mean, it's I would just like get out there, get your feet wet, and that's how you're really going to handle just with just one property, and that's how you're gonna build that confidence to invest in another property and gain that skill or skills when you manage these properties.
Yeah, I love that. And you learn by doing, really, at the end of the day. That doesn't mean you have to do everything yourself, but actually going through the process, right? And actually investing. That's certainly how you learn and solidify things and actually make action or make traction by taking action. I forget how the quote goes, something along the lines like knowledge is power, but it's useless if it's not applied. So that's what comes to mind listening to your advice there, James. But I want to talk about you being Canadian because we have a significant amount of international investors. Adam, before I kind of completely switch gears, you have anything else to run through for James?
Yeah, before we get into the depth, we always talk about whenever you close on your real estate deal and you get that first income, that your mindset shifts. Did you experience that? Whenever the whole, like, I am now a real estate investor and I'm going to do these things. Did you experience a mindset shift at all?
I did. It's funny because my dad, he's passed, by the way, but I've always seen him into the news, and he's had like properties. He also like has his own restaurant at the time, and I was like, he's always busy. I don't know why he's listening to the news all the time. But now I'm kind of like that because I'm just listening to like the economy, the U.S. presidency, how it's impacting our lifestyle and the laws that are unfolding. So it has changed my mindset, and I'm adulting every moment since I started real estate investing.
Yeah, because that will impact you, right? I mean, the economics, that stuff matters. That you're kind of forced to be engaged to some degree. A lot of it is noise. You know what I mean? So be cautious with news. But I mean, that stuff, has that trickle down effect, especially when you look at, the housing cycles, the interest rates, the tax benefits. Like that stuff is tangible for you as an investor in the business you're operating. So let's talk about being a Canadian, James, because we have a lot of Canadian investors. My wife's Canadian, by the way, so she's from Alberta. But let's just talk about how you were able to invest in the U.S. as a Canadian. That's like a simple question. A lot of people like, do I need an LLC? Do I need to be, what type of lending is available? Can you just walk us briefly through the process of you as a Canadian investing in the U.S.?
So when I came to the U.S., I had a job lined up for me to work as a nurse. And
so you're working in the U.S. Is that accurate? Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay.
So when I came down south in San Antonio, Texas, I had a job with my TN visa, a temporary visa. I was still able to invest in real estate. There were no issues. I just had that temporary social security number.
Any issues on financing? Were you able to get?
No, they just needed that information and my ID, which I had, and everything went smoothly. Like there was no other issues besides, making sure that I had the financial status that I needed to put in the down payment and qualify for their conventional loan is what I went through.
Okay.
I did ask for like the other one,
the SCR loan,
the 3.5% down payment.
Oh, the 5% down.
Yeah. What was that called? There's another type of loan besides conventional. Well, first home buyers, because that was going to be my first home. But they said it was conventional. I just never really tapped into why I couldn't get the first.
That would be if you're
primary resident.
You're going to live in it. Yeah, we do have options, and I don't know. We have many different loan options just for the broader audience as a whole. So James has a unique scenario because he's actually working in the U.S., so it probably made it a little bit easier for him as a Canadian to be able to access loans and acquire here. But we have many investors that are across the world. Many of them in Canada, that work in Canada and don't work in the U.S., that are still able to buy properties. We still have different lending options available for investors, and we have multiple loan options available for everyone. I mean, it's up to you to use what loan option you want to at the end of the day, but we have many different lender options that will fit whatever your scenario is, whether that's DSCR, portfolio loans. We have the 5% down loan option where you can invest in properties with less money down. So that's just something to speak with your rep, but on a side tangent there. So I appreciate the context there. James, let's just talk just briefly about investing out of state. I think you're kind of in this position as I was when I was in the military, bouncing around, where it's like you don't have a home base necessarily. I mean, your home is in Canada, you're here in the U.S. working, you're traveling around. So, whether that's the case or you just find yourself living in a market that doesn't make sense because it's too expensive, talk to us about the mindset of investing in an area you've probably never been to, may never go to. I don't know, unless you visit your properties, which you certainly could, right? Make it a business trip. But how was the mindset for you investing at a location that you're not that's not local to you?
It can be timid. For me, it was timid if I'm not doing my research. So I have to do my research when I'm investing in one area. I think I just chose Canton, Ohio, just because of the inventory that you showed me. It made sense when I worked out the numbers. But inside of like exploring of Canton, Ohio, which I did visit because travel nursing allowed me to see the places that I needed to, which made it more easier for me to see it physically. But that time when I got to my second property, I was just fine with the area because I've already visited the area. But if
Oh,
it
you
was,
did. Okay, good.
yeah, I at a glance, I thought that I was able to see Steve Yoke at the time, but it was during the holiday, so I missed out on seeing him. But in any case, that I felt like the area was great. It was a more of a suburban type of area. It was closer to Cleveland, so it's just an hour or less of a drive. Um, but yeah, I found the neighborhood quite peaceful. It's closer to like the park, hospitals, and the university college. That was a big thing because right now I have students renting my first property. Um, I know I always feel like I am doing something good just because I can help out the students that are trying to afford a place to live in. So that was pretty cool and just to feel that I have that ability to make an impact into their lives.
Just make sure you keep those receipts and turn them into your accountant to write off as a real estate expense and
Yeah.
more tax deductions on your returns to roll over into future years as right, have those paper losses. So as we kind of wrap up here, I want to dive in, and I would say based on the financing, it is important to deal with a lender who knows what they're doing, because a lot of lenders probably would have seen the Canadian citizenship and stopped there. But the right lenders do the right things. I know I was trying to put an offer on a property recently, and the other agent for the property did not understand DSCR loans and the percentages that could be used and everything. And I was like, well, you don't. There's people who deal in real estate, and there's people who understand investment real estate. So it's important to deal with the people who know investment real estate. But looking back now, as you talk to see people who are doing the paralysis of analysis, what advice would you give somebody who is where you are a year ago, the newbie investor who might be worried about anything and everything? Maybe they're already following the news and are terrified of everything that's happening. What would you say to them?
Um, if I really have to, you need to first, I guess, do your due diligence of exploring, reading, researching, and educating yourself first and foremost, I think. And then second would just take that first step of like reach out to your lender, find if you're in a financial um uh, status of investing, or they can give you offer advice of what you need to do to get into real estate if you have the money. If not, they can give you that advice of what numbers that you'll need to attain that number. um Third, once you've acquired the real estate, I would just start journaling, because that's what I did when did my first rental property. I jotted everything that I did, because by the time I got to the second property, it was a piece of cake, because I made like more of a cookie cutter for myself to follow through, and I just kind of edited out, because I did that for my recent property, and I was able to edit things out, what I did differently and what came up, what problems or issues that I did, that how I resolved it. So that's a really another tip that I would have new investors do, because it'll just make your life easier if you were planning to purchase another property.
I love that. I love. We haven't heard that before, right?
Nope, that's a new one.
That's like that's key. I love that.
Yeah, so and then I still have it saved into my iPhone under my notes, and I just like look back. Okay, this is what I'll need to do. And there was this checklist that you have in your website that I looked into. I glanced over with my first property, and I did tailor that to my notes too. So that was pretty cool.
James, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Since this last couple questions I have for you, you had mentioned, I love that idea. You're talking about obstacles, how you overcame those. Is there any key obstacles or issues that came up, whether it's during the purchase of either asset or during the ownership of the asset, that you think would be beneficial to share with the community, and, things you would have done differently or how you overcame any issues?
I would just say question a lot with your your seller about some of the properties, because you'll go through the inspections that you'll hire, and also with the appraisals, and they'll just offer these photos. That's also another key thing, was that it gave me confidence in completing the transaction with Steve with the inspections, because they will give you these pictures and what areas of work that needed to be done. And it was just a simple, hey, to Yoke, hey, I just need, this is the areas that my inspector have found, and just needed some areas that needed to be worked at, and Steve was able to get those done. So that just felt reassuring to know that I had the inspector to relay that as my eyes and ears for Steve Yoke to take care of.
It's all about communication, right?
Yeah,
At the end of the day.
all about communication. You just need to really question a lot, and that's how you're going to be more comfortable with your deals. Even if you're wanting to do real estate out of state real estate investing, you need to be able to have a clear communication. So don't be afraid of asking those questions, and that's how you're going to get really far into your journey.
I love that. It's all about you, because you said you don't know what you don't know. That's the case for everyone at whatever point they're at, and you got to ask the questions, right? And that's going to allow you to be a more sophisticated investor. So we will spend as much time as we need to with you, right, to go through and help you build out that strategy and help answer those questions, as well as bring in the subject matter experts. And when you go under a property or go under contract with a property, as James mentioned, like, due diligence is really important. There's always going to be a ton of questions around the inspections and appraisals. Like, that's a learning process. That's the way I think I always look at it.
The build-to-rent industry is growing fast. As BTR projects gain momentum across the country, there's one place where 850 BTR senior decision makers will be gathering to create the next wave of business. The Build-to-Rent Forum at the Nashville Grand Hyatt on March 17th and 18th. Do business with the BTR community, creating BTR communities. Join the industry today at the link in the description below and use the discount code there for an extra 15% off. Managing rentals doesn't have to be overwhelming. With over 28,000 rental units using HEMLANE, landlords are getting back their time without giving up control. Find 24/7 repair coordination, hands-free leasing and tenant placement, automated rent collection, and more. Rent to Retirement has partnered with HEMLANE to give landlords like you the tools you need to scale your investments with confidence. Take control today. Book a demo and see how it works, and get up to 25% off when you fully sign up.
James, last question I have for you. What's next? You're doing some exciting stuff. You were able to basically take a promotion or a new position where you earn more income to get the down payment to buy your first property. As about a year ago, and then within a year, you're able to even accelerate that and buy your second investment property in a state that you are not living in, and making some big moves. So that's congratulations on the success. Thank you so much for sharing that with the community. I think this will be very inspiring to many people, just as Kim's episode was for you. We'll make sure to let her know that. But what's next for you?
I want to still continue investing in real estate, so another property. I'm not too sure if it's going to be a single family, or because I do want to take a little dip into multifamily too. We'll see how that goes. It just depends on what I see and if it pencils out. But I am interested in acquiring some type of multifamily, either a duplex or a 4-unit or a triplex. We'll see.
Nice. Well, I love the whole thing about learning every time you close. I mean, I've done over a dozen deals myself, and every single time whenever I end the transaction, I'm like, okay, this time I did this. Or, afterwards I'm like, oh, I should have downloaded this, or now I have to go back and ask the title company or ask my lender for these docs. And you just learn something along every transaction. So just know you might be taking notes, but your notes are going to expand each and every deal that you do as you figure out more and more kind of what the process is. So
yeah, I think Adam's going to start journaling after this. I don't know.
Maybe it's just a possibility. So James, I want to thank you for a couple things. I want to thank you for trusting us. I want to thank you for, telling us the story of getting started. And just want to thank you in general for spreading your knowledge and, helping people, hopefully feel comfortable enough to get started, hopefully with us, but, whomever, just get started in real estate investing and get going. If you want to see our properties, you can head over to renttoretirement.com. That's renttoretirement.com. You can see our inventory. You can schedule a time to talk with us. We have, you can download the checklist that he talked about. You can get on the wealth calculator. You just, it's right there, ready for you, free to use. Also, if you have any questions that you want us to answer in future episodes, or if you want to be like James and come tell your story about getting started and, hopefully try to inspire more people, just email podcasts@renttoretirement.com. That's podcasts@renttoretirement.com. And we will either answer that question or see if you're a good fit for sharing your knowledge with everybody else. So again, James, thanks for joining us today. For everybody else, thank you so much for spending the time with us today. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.